It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, Miss Rusty. What is up, everybody? It is, I don't know, some day of the week. Someone help me. Wednesday? I'm going to say Wednesday. It's Wednesday because yesterday I did both shows. Or maybe not both shows, but I know I did my other show in the afternoon. So that makes it Wednesday. That's how I can tell the days of the week. So thank you everyone for being here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN, on the Public Access Podcast, the podcast, soon to be the podcast from PA, so it'll be the podcast. Yeah, that's going to be a lot. So, yeah, thank you everyone here for being here and listening. And today I'm bringing someone back. I'm bringing back this guy. I talked to him for like, I think it was a long fucking episode, but that's good. It's not a 21 minute. I'm not saying if there's someone on here, if you go back and you listen and you like look at all this stuff and the ones that are 21 minutes, not great. But I'm saying this one's going to probably go a little longer than that. Some of them were short just because they needed to be short. Some of them were shorter because that's what I got. So this one is not one of those. So I'm going to go and do this right now. So I'm not even going to tell you to like call in, leave a message because messages, you have your messages. We don't need no stinky messages. I'm going to do it for him because I'm not. I'm going to let him do it because he can do it better than I can. And I'm going a million miles per hour.
Messages? Messages? We don't need no stinking messages.
But I do call in 503-974-6420. I'll play it on here. And today I'm going to bring in my special guest right here, right now. Back again, we have Dr. Ian. It almost sounds like I'm going to say like Dr. Evil, but then it goes in, it's Dr. Ian. And so it works out. So welcome back, Dr. Ian. Unless
Hold on. For some reason, my camera turned itself off. I'm trying to get it to.
it's okay. I don't. I turned it off with magic. That's what happens here. This is the magic show today.
I got a backup though. Hold on.
Oh, you got a backup camera.
Backup. Let me see if I can get it working.
Anyway, you can put it in reverse, and it goes and looks behind you.
It's backup cam, but it's. See what we got.
And yeah, like I got my backup cam, but then I don't know. I don't use it. Here you come. There he is.
Yeah.
There he is. Yeah, man. I haven't used my backup cam. I had it for a little bit, and now and I had like backup. I had like all this extra equipment. I had like fucking, nice microphone and nice everything else. And then I just plug this headset into my computer. My computer.
I was using this. I can't even get it to.
That thing's
interfacing.
That thing's nice, man.
Yeah. We got it for doing more video stuff with the cars. So
how's the cars? How are the cars?
The cars are good. We're just still trying to figure it out. Like I got an email in the middle of the night last night from somebody telling me that my tow truck, I said I advertised a rollback tow truck, and someone's like, yo man, that's not a rollback tow truck. That's a tilt back. Like a rollback goes all the way to the ground. So I Google image search, and like all I find in the Google image search for rollbacks is like pictures of my truck. And I'm like, so I write to the guy and I'm like, hey, kind of looks like a rollback from everything I can find. Like, could you provide some evidence that, it's not? And he sends me a picture of a tow truck that like the back like comes back and then it like goes down to the ground so the car can like drive onto it flat, and then the whole thing raises up and like goes onto the back of the truck. He's like, that's a rollback. And I'm like, I saw a picture of it, but I still can't find anywhere else aside from this guy's like one photo of this thing So, anyways, I gotta figure it out because I did get another message from someone asking if it went all the way down, and I'm assuming that's what they're looking for. So I don't know. I gotta work on
So
it.
is it still back in Japan and you haven't gotten
No,
it
I got
yet?
it here. My car broke down 2 days ago, and I called my mechanic, and he went over to the lot and picked up our tow truck and came and got me off the side of the road. So it
So
works.
you got your tow truck to pick you up.
Yeah,
That's awesome, man.
maybe the
Like,
first and last time, but we're gonna try to sell it. But until we sell it, like we're gonna use it as a tow truck.
man, yeah, every time, man, I see those pictures, they're just like it's so cool, man. Like, and out here, like it's so expensive. Like I think I've sent you a couple things, but like, yeah, dude, it's like you got a lot better that you're on that side of the country, and plus, like what I've seen of you've had has been better anyway. Like, better quality and like because you don't really know like what someone's been through, but you're like right there from the source, bringing it bringing it right out. And I mean, where does it take it to? Do you have to go does it go down the Columbia at all, or do you have to go out to the coast? Or
It comes into Tacoma, and so I gotta.
oh, okay.
We have a trucker, a guy. When I was doing real estate, I tried to sell him a house, and eventually, when the cars started picking up, I was like, "Hey, you own a trucking business? Like, would you be interested in getting these cars for us?" And he said, "Sure." So he goes up every time we have cars there. We bring the documents to him, and then he takes them up to the port, gets the cars, goes to the customs office, does all the customs work, and then brings them down for us.
That's awesome. That custom work, the customs work. I've seen it. So I saw this one guy that was buying. There's like this. I want to say it's Chinese. It's like this little truck that comes in a pallet, like
Yeah,
a
like a little electric
like
truck or something.
yeah, a little electric truck. It's not quite legal, like street legal, but you can. He was driving it around his property, but
Yeah, totally.
they said yeah, you can buy those, but like to pay the extra money to have someone do all the paperwork, the customs paperwork was well worth it because yeah, it seems like. But I mean, I don't know. You probably have done it a number of times and
I
kind of
mean,
know the.
we have a broker, so I do some of the work, but then there's some stuff that we pass on to her. So the actual like person who talks to customs and interfaces with like the port and the shipping company is a lady at a different brokerage.
Oh, okay.
I only have to fill out the forms that we submit to her that she then submits to customs on our behalf. So,
Holy shit. Okay, that's awesome then.
yeah, no, I mean, I Googled around for a while. We were using a company on the East Coast and it seems like they weren't doing a great job. So I got pretty desperate. I got really frustrated one day with the lady that we were previously using. She just made some mistakes and it looked like it was going to be a huge hassle and maybe, cost us a car or something like that. And so I finally just um, I called the port and I said, hey, like, since the customs office or the customs broker is going to be the one working with you, who's your favorite person to work with? Like, why don't you just give me the name of your favorite person who calls you and then I'll work with them? And she's like, well, we're a government entity, so I'm not really allowed to make recommendations. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course not. And she's like, there's on our website, we have a list of like 700 different customs brokers. So you can just go through that list and find one. I was like, right, right. Well, I know you're not allowed to make a recommendation, but if you did, who would you recommend? She's like, oh, I'd recommend this particular company. I'm like, great, great, okay. So I called them and immediately within 5 minutes, like we were set for going forward. So it's been great.
That's a good way to phrase that question because there's a lot of those, with I don't know. There's a lot of places like even trying to get like looking like I was just looking for a place to live and trying to ask certain questions. Like, well, we can't really answer that. Okay, let me try to rephrase this a little bit and just try to get to a certain spot that's
People
something
can,
okay, like okay, well, yeah, we can say that.
yeah,
And yeah, it's kind of nice. And so then you have the broker, you got someone to pick up your cars. And you got someone on in Japan, and I mean, and then now you got to drive around in these cool cars with your dealer license plate, which was it 666 something?
6'6". Yeah. It's a weird
But
world, man. I mean,
it's
I don't
pretty
know.
pretty all right, man. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
things could be worse right now, but
yeah,
uh, Yeah, we're just trying to figure out how to keep the whole thing going, because the more we grow, the more money we spend every month. So like right now we've got multiple employees, and our rent doubled because we ended up renting more space, so we can do like repairs and stuff and more fabrication indoors. And so just making sure that like all the different parts of it, like, if we had a few slow months, like I don't want the whole thing to implode. So just trying to like budget.
Yeah. So are you set in Oregon then, that part? Or is that up in
Oh yeah, no,
Tacoma?
it's no, everything's down in Portland. So we're about 2 blocks south of Alberta Street on MLK.
Oh shit. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's got a big lot. We can park about 30 vehicles on the lot, and we've got about like a 50 by 70 warehouse space that we use for, maybe I mentioned before, but we were building a driving simulator. So we got that all done.
Oh, it's done. The thing
It's
that you
done.
and
Yeah,
Jeremy were building.
people are driving around. Yeah, like my mechanic was there last night with his friends driving late last night. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like I taught Sam how to drive stick shift with it. He's still only 10.
Left-handed stick shift?
Yeah, right hand drive stick shift, or so he's
Yeah.
on the right seat and then shifting with his left hand. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Cool, man.
yeah.
And so then, so do you have video of that? Is there, or do you have to, you go there for the experience, or how does this work?
Let me see if I can bring up any videos of it.
I probably have to hit something for you to share. I think I can do this here. I think I figured this out on my last one. Yeah, that should work.
Uh,
That's so fucking cool, man, that you got that going.
I mean, we're just same with everything else. We're playing around, but let's see. How do I share?
There's a little thing down, maybe
You
at the
share?
bottom. It says share screen.
Yeah. Okay,
I
cool.
think
Let me,
I think you should be able to click on that. Just I don't know if I have to.
maybe it's desktop too.
I think I got it.
I think I had to change something
Oh, okay.
in my system settings to allow it. It's saying I have to quit and reopen Zoom to do it.
Can you send me a link? Is it on YouTube
It's on. Yeah,
or
yeah. Here,
something? Or can you send me a link
yeah, I can
in
just send you a
here
link
and
to
I
it
can
and
do it
then
on this?
should be fine. Hold on.
Cool.
Yeah, and we're back now to kind of continuing to play around with some of the same ideas, but my friend's got that EEG helmet, or like it does like scans brain waves and like 13 different points of brain activity.
Yeah.
And so we're using a program called Touch Designer and then Ableton to be able to basically have your brain waves modulate music and then have that affect like the music then affecting visuals. So we'd create like a kind of small immersive space where you could effectively like have your brain, based on how excited your brain is, like kind of get yourself into a feedback loop and kind of freak yourself out.
Yeah. I'm gonna need to take a trip out to Portland at some
Yeah,
point
we'll
here.
be. Yeah, you need to come play in the machine. My friend who's helped me make it is almost done with his psilocybin therapy license.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, and so we'd be able to offer that. Like we were thinking of trying to develop hardware to market specifically to psilocybin therapists who are looking for ways to enhance the experience of their clients. Because right now, I mean, a lot of it is people sitting on a couch and they
Right.
can wear like an eye mask or something like that. But because there's such like specific requirements about the locations that people are able to do it in, it makes it that I mean, it's kind of, that's one of the restrictions, right? It's like with all the medical testing on psychedelics up until now, whenever you're doing testing inside of like a medical facility, it sucks because it's like you're
You're
in a
in a
hospital.
fucking, you're not in yeah, you're like in some weird space. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of here. Let me I got the link
Okay. Yeah, just put it in the chat and I should be able to
to it.
get it here. Yeah, because I mean that's even how it is with hypnosis. Like I fucking loved not having to have people come into my office. Like it's bullshit. Like I don't want people um having to go
Yeah,
into
your
some
room
weird
is,
place.
yeah, that's
Um,
going to be like the deciding situation for the set.
let's see. I don't I guess you can't do can you do full screen with this? I don't even know how
Even so,
that
you can still
works.
see it. I mean, it'll.
Okay.
Oh, I like this part the best.
Damn.
Yeah, the tones.
So like on that one, we're using the software is called Assetto Corsa, and then we're running the Shutoko Revival project, where a bunch of people took the map from Tokyo Extreme Racer 2 from the PlayStation, and they like took all the data from that and then remapped it into this, and then graphics and stuff like that. So it's like you can
Whoa.
drive on the Japanese freeway system, and people like fans went through and updated like the signs in the buildings and tried to like keep it pretty up to date. So I don't remember how many kilometers of freeway you can drive, but it's pretty extensive.
So is this the whole like most of the roads, at least on the main island, or like is for Japan that they have availability on this or what?
No, this is just like only the freeways within the Tokyo, kind of like there's a big loop
Oh,
in
okay.
Tokyo, so it just goes around in there. But there's some other
That's
famous drift courses people have made maps for and some other things, but like most of it, I mean, the game is generally like racing, so people do a lot of like circuit races and stuff like that. And then
holy shit.
somebody took the map from GTA 5 and loaded it in, and then some people took the map from there's a few other things that people have been able to port it from. So
So can anyone upload different maps into this world? It's and
yeah,
they do all the work for
someone has to
you?
make them. So it's like the port for the GTA 5 map is like something's a little bit off the scale, and there seems to be something off a little bit with the, at least in my experience with it. And then there's certain parts of the map where you just kind of like fall through holes. So it's not perfect or anything, but at least I think it's just the proof of concept that you could take one thing and port it into something else, but it's not perfect yet. Like the one like that freeway thing, like, you know, I think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to get it to work right.
Yeah. And so then could you do like some other game like a Mario Kart or something, or like
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, you can play Forza Horizon or Mario or anything that's, I mean, you could even turn off the two side screens if you wanted and just use the front screen if you don't have a game that has triple monitor support. So
so
yeah, it works with, I mean, you play anything in the car.
yeah, I mean, could you imagine? I mean, like the whole proof of concept of this is fucking amazing, and just being able to have this as like a like a Twitch channel or something with just something like that, and people start doing that kind of thing. Or I don't know if it'd be too fucking much for people, and they just like me and have their fucking heads explode, don't know where to go or what to do, and just um are just like, oh, holy shit, okay, I guess I'm sticking around for this, and checking it out. And so then when people come in there, so I mean, if you want, I mean, also you can have people that are taking doing the psilocybin retreat in somewhere, but would take it more out of a clinical space. So is that,
Well,
or like
like
how?
our specific space, we discovered that we're within 1,000 feet of an elementary school, so we can't license our current garage for a therapy site. So we'd end up having to rent a site somewhere else. I think right now, most of what we're doing in terms of the design is going to be either for headsets, like either augmented reality or like a VR setup. Or even I've seen different ones that basically like flash LED lights in your eyes, like little tiny strobes, basically at different rates in different eyes, and it causes you to see kaleidoscope patterns and shifting colors and things that you normally wouldn't imagine that you'd see. But even without any chemical enhancements, it's interesting that what kind of visual effects those things can produce. And so we've been experimenting with kind of programming for those headsets and figuring out what kind of audio input or what kind of things you can adjust to have the audio generate different types of like visual patterns with that. So anyways, we're just playing around with it, but yeah, there'll be more to come for sure. We're definitely trying to figure out like both directions, like how to keep it within like the safe bounds of like a legal therapy session, and then also just how wild and weird it can get, like in terms of if you didn't have any requirements for anything and you were just doing self-experimentation, like how far can you freak yourself out?
Yeah. And I mean, how do you feel when you get out, when you take off, get out of the van, and you come back into this space of not in uh
Yeah.
not in that reality. How do you feel? Are you feeling drained? Are you feeling like regenerated, or what?
I haven't played enough with the van to be able to give you kind of a judgment for that. I mean, like typically, like after I drive it, I feel like I've just been, I'm kind of exhausted because I'm like trying to learn how to drift or like racing on the
Yeah,
freeway or something like that. And so it's like, afterwards I'm like, some people feel a little bit sick from it just because it's like so much motion within the like 180-degree field of vision.
yeah,
And so I noticed like their first few rides are like a couple people are like, oh no, I can't do this. I got to get out of here. But I think people who are highly motivated will deal with nausea to be able to keep having the experience.
yeah, I think so too. And so are you like able to, with the audio, then are you able to, or would you be able to incorporate some sort of hypnosis or some sort of binaural beats or
Yeah,
frequency to be able
absolutely.
to heal? Because I mean, just that I forgot what they're called. Those the machines that put out the frequencies that heal you. I can't think of what they're called. It's some weird name.
I don't know off the top of my head either, but yeah, something that would
Uh,
yeah, I think there's a lot happening with audio, and I mean various degrees of just even like really low frequency vibrations and different types of like simple sound modulation. It's not even really like what most people wouldn't even consider music,
yeah.
but just
So
different tones playing in like slightly asynchronous ways. And
yeah. So it's a Rife machine
oh
that does the RIFE.
yeah,
And because I mean, yeah, like it was one of those things like the guy who really pushed for it all of a sudden ended up, uh, you know, one of those things that like work too well. And you're like, oh, okay, well, you got to watch out when you do those. When stuff works too well, sometimes. I talked to another guy.
wait, what happened to the Rife Machine guy? Did somebody off him or
I don't know if
something?
it was the Rife machine. I think it might have been the Rife machine guy. There was the Rife machine guy. I think he did. I think he ended up, someone ended up offing him. And then there's also the guy, there was these these like light boxes that you go into. Um, and I
The
forgot
guy,
the name of the what?
the orgone energy accumulators for Reich.
Possibly.
Because
I'm not.
there's like Wilhelm Reich who had all of his work destroyed by the Nazis, and then he came over to the U.S. and then had all of his work. Again, the FBI did a raid on his lab back, I think, in the 50s, like
Oh,
post-war, and a fire started during the raid, and all of his work burned again. So Robert
yeah,
Anton Wilson. I know you probably want to talk a little bit about Discordianism today, but
sure. Yes.
I figured that like Wilson, he said that he first got interested in Wilhelm Reich because he's the only person that had all of his research burned by both the Nazis and the U.S. government, and so he must have been saying something that's pretty interesting. And he had just had some theories that basically like about orgasm and about how if you can't orgasm right, then you're just going to end up this like terrible neurotic human that won't be able to function very well, and had some other rather kind of, I don't know, but again, I think towards the end of his life he had this idea that there's this energy, I think he called it orgone energy, and he believed that could be, it was like kind of like life energy, but it also was related to sex in some way, and that you could accumulate this energy more. And so I think he built these kind of like, I don't want to call them tinfoil boxes, but there was something that would like reflect the orgone energy inside, and you're supposed to go into them. So I think some of that is where people started kind of treating him, well, basically assuming that he was,
Nutty.
I don't know if he was trying to control the weather with these things too or not, but he had something else too that made people kind of put him in the crazy list. But at the same time, like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Because yeah, there was a guy I had on a little bit ago who this thing was called scalar light, like SCALAR, and it's sort of like this. So I brought that up as sort of a, like, because it sounds like I'm telling this guy, I'm like, dude, you got to watch out, man. Like if you're doing this kind of shit, like that's because like one, it can produce all this free energy and shit, which is cool enough. But then also he was saying like if you take a picture of Ian, like Dr. Ian here, And his thing, I think he said, was the herpes virus. If he takes like a picture of the herpes virus, like what it actually looks like, takes a picture of that and a picture of you at the same time, and puts it in front of this light in the field, it will find you in the world, like anywhere in the fucking world, and anywhere that it sees this fucking this herpes virus in your body, it will like instantaneously knock it out, and it can completely eradicate it.
I'm kind of confused even on what you just said.
I am too. But somehow, let me see if I can pull this up, man. It was a trip. I talked to this guy for like a half hour. Let me see.
Yeah, man, you got a lot of shows since we last talked, man. You got tons of these episodes done. How do you find most of the people that you bring on? Just
Um, groups on Facebook, and then it just became sort of word of mouth, and kind of like
awesome.
in between these people. And
Yeah, it
uh,
seems like you got a huge, I mean, just the list of different people on there is wild.
it's been pretty fucking crazy. With the kinds of things. Let's see if I can find a video. So okay, yeah. So what it does, so you upload a facial photo, so it like knows it can find you like anywhere in the world. And yeah, man, it's so these light waves fucking go through the universe or whatever, and fucking somehow finds you, finds Ian, this picture of Dr. Ian in the world, and eradicates stuff instantly, or makes you feel better. But then I mean there's this stuff I've seen a little bit too of in
Yeah,
this.
that's peeking out there at the bottom.
Yep. So there's that, and that's been out there a few times. But and I was something else I was interested in when he brought that up. Let me see if I can play some of this here.
Like how they got their little mind, body, spirit triangle with the DNA going up through it, coming out of the top of the earth with the sun cresting over. That's an intense image in itself.
It's
Yeah.
a carrier wave. It carries
Right.
information from the
Let's see.
universe.
Yeah.
And I've developed instruments, scalar light instruments, that harness these standing waves, these scalar waves. Now, I'm not the only researcher that has performed this function. There have been many throughout history. And nonetheless, there are presently very few scalar energy researchers working along these lines that I'm working. It still is an emerging science, so we have a lot to learn about this emerging science, scalar light. Back in the 1800s, you had men like Maxwell and Tesla who were theorizing about scalar energy, and they were really the forefathers of scalar energy research. Well, today we want to bring this to the fore. Today we want to show you the benefits of these alternative therapies and how so many people can benefit from them. But we look at scalar
I'm
light.
always
What is that? Scalar light
Yeah.
is from the sun.
pretty
and the
intrigued
stars.
when people are
All
like
of
big
the
into
stars.
like those you get somebody and like when they're citing sources and all their sources are like from the like before the 20th century.
Yeah. Which
It's kind of an interesting thing because the first thing is to be like, well, that's old science, or like, oh, that all got disproven. But it's like I spent the last probably like I guess over a year reading all the works of Henry Versalm, who was a famous French metaphysician back in like the I guess late 19th century, early 20th century, and I guess he's kind of famous. He was really popular in the U.S. and France. He has this idea that time is completely radically different than space and material, and that basically everything is a combination of time and space, but not in the way that physicists talk about it. And so I think he's known for having like when Einstein still wasn't very famous, he was presenting like one of his early presentations about theory of relativity, and I guess Versalm, I might be getting this wrong, but Versalm went to the presentation and like kind of publicly challenged Einstein and basically said he was wrong. And Einstein was like, all right, well, I guess we'll have a debate. And so famous French metaphysician Versalm went up against Einstein in a debate. And I guess there's kind of like, I need to look into the details of how the debate went. But he essentially, I think Versalm read a book called Duration and Simultaneity, where he basically just tries to refute Einstein's arguments for relativity from kind of the start to the finish of the book. And I know, I think Einstein's quote is, "The time of the philosopher does not exist," and this is kind of like mic drop. But so in history, you know, no one's heard of Versalm, everyone's heard of Einstein.
Right.
And so it made it kind of interesting to read these books, because it's like, and I'm reading it with people who are generally, you know, consider themselves to be scientifically minded, and who are trying to read it like as skeptically as possible. But it's, you know, it was just kind of interesting to watch people like kind of be uncomfortable with the fact that they couldn't tell whether, you know, what's going on, like whether this is complete just like weird insanity that they're reading, or whether they're, you know, so it left everybody with this kind of weird ambiguous feeling. And like, I don't know if we all went crazy or what, but
I mean, like, yeah, why are we hearing of Einstein and not him? I mean, that's probably question enough to.
well, because for physics, I mean, like what Einstein said works. It's not wrong. It's just, I mean, Versalm is basically proposing that there would be something outside of that. But again, like, so, I don't know, like, that's why it gets called metaphysics, and that's why metaphysics gets a bad name and ends up in that weird part of the bookstore. And I don't know, like, it just seems like I'd be kind of ashamed if anything I wrote ended up in the metaphysics section of the bookstore. But at the same time, like, I don't think there's really any other place to put it.
Right. And so, I mean, with that too, like, there's so much of that, the metaphysics kind of realm. I mean, even with hypnosis, like, it's the fucking weirdo fucking science shit that's like, yeah, I don't know if it's really real or whatever. And like, it's, yeah, it cannot really prove it, or, you know, and it ends up in this sort of pseudoscience.
Yeah. But there's some
And
powerful people and some interesting people who've been pretty heavily involved in it throughout, you know, at least in the last couple hundred years. So, I mean,
yeah, I mean, just because it's fucking meta science stuff, I mean, maybe there needs to be a new classification for other sciences besides just those two.
the fringe. Yeah,
The the Fringe Science Festival, fucking 2024, man, be there.
exactly.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen. I mean, I think that'd be pretty fucking cool to be able to, because I don't know, man, like what you're doing with everything you're doing is eventually gonna need to be the backbone of something. Uh,
Something.
because yeah, I don't know what exactly, and I don't know what other ones are gonna come together, because it's gonna have some other parts that are coming with it that are, you know, tied in, like you were saying, like even if it's you know, with the what I forgot how you said it, to add to the psychedelic experience, to add to that, make that part of it, but also then, yeah, with you know, with healing, or even just like being able to be in something that can change, you know, change the way your brain works. And I mean, I remember, when was that? Again, probably like 15 years ago. I did this stuff, like when it was kind of a new thing with um what the neuro programming,
Neurolinguistic.
neurofeedback.
Okay.
And so I was doing that, like, with, which, you know, was sort of the same little thing around your head, and you go and you use your thoughts to make some little computer animation move, you know, up and down,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
to a certain thing. And
Help get in the flow state.
yeah, get in the flow state. And so, is that something that's kind of incorporated in, or is that different, or was like, I mean, what is, or are not, what are the ideal outcomes for the machine and the experience?
I mean, personally, like without any commercial benefits, I'd say it's to like obliterate subjectivity. Like you just kind of like, you know, you got a sense of I and you're sitting there, but it's like if you get the strobes going fast enough and you're tripping hard enough and you have like enough, you know, low frequency vibrations, like, I don't know. I mean, you can definitely like reach peaks of intensity that wouldn't be available otherwise. So I think it's just like giving a person who's already kind of opened their brain up to more intense sensory input and then just cranking the volume up on that sensory input. Like I think some people go to, huge music festivals for similar effects of like, just this like complete overload. Like you're already at this place, it's like fairly chaotic and there's thousands of people there and it's loud and there's like loud music and it's like a festival. And at the same, and like there's a way in which you kind of dissolve into that, I think, like when you're high enough in certain settings. And I think it's almost like, can we recreate some of those sensations? I don't want to call it like a mini rave because it kind of cheapens it, but or like a rave for one. Like, it's basically like what inputs and outputs can you do? Like what is the interesting things? Do we use the brainwave to do it? Do we use the person's heart rate? Do we use their oxygen output or something like that? Like there's different sensors we can connect that then affect like what gets generated by it. But I think I don't know about healing because I think for each person, like that's going to be kind of a different thing. I mean, there's like specific things with the body that require like either time to rest or different types of nutrition for healing. And then mental healing is, I think, a more ambiguous thing that's going to be different for each person. But I understand that psychedelics needs to move through medical channels or through like that in order to be legal and have like widespread acceptance. But my own personal interest in it isn't, for the purpose of like taking someone who's sick and trying to help them feel better. It's taking someone who's arguably in great health and try to have them, basically just pop their brain. Because I think that doing that is, kind of what leads to a lot more potential, a lot more interesting things. Like it's like, the breakdown is the breakthrough. Type where, it's
and without that breakdown there is no breakthrough.
So it's like you got to dissolve some stuff first, and it seems like trying to, whether it's the like technician who's operating the machine has the control over that, or whether you're just literally putting the controls like in the hand of the user who's plugged into the machine, just different ways to kind of go about it. I mean, there's that book by is it David Foster Wallace who wrote Infinite Jest, and in that book there's this one section of it where it's constantly talking about this like videotape, this VHS tape, where they've basically created content that has the same effect as, I think back in the 70s, they did some experiments where they connected electrodes to a certain part of the rat brain. And then they gave a button to the rat that would allow the rat to push the button to stimulate that particular electrode in its brain. And what they observed is that the rats were starving to death because they couldn't take a break from pushing the button long enough to eat food. And so,
oh shit,
yeah, it's like the ecstasy orgasm button basically. And so in David Foster Wallace's book, he's David Wallace, no? David Foster Wallace? David Wallace Foster? I don't remember his name. Yeah, anyway, David Foster Wallace was basically saying that humans have been on an endless quest to reach that electrode spot in our own brains and figure out a way to be able to push it. And that there's a certain subset of the population that basically, if not all the population, that if given that button would do nothing but push it and starve too. And so I think this long kind of rambling book, which is about a drug rehab clinic that's kind of intertwined with this story about a private boys tennis high school that's like in the, after the US like goes bankrupt and like part of it gets reincorporated into Canada. I don't know, it's a strange kind of dystopian near future, just bizarre book, but that was one of the themes of it, was that there was this videotape that if you saw it, that you would basically go into this like coma of ecstasy and never return because your brain had like basically permanently pushed that button. And so, that kind of inspired some of this too, as I was like, well, it's not a VHS tape and it's not an electrode in the brain, but we'll get as close as we can with whatever means we have.
And so, I mean, looking at people that you see that seem to be in the best state, I guess, of existence, consciousness, everything, are usually people who have found that or found something similar to that and have fucking pushed it, but not fucking stayed there, not stay there for like
I'm
gotten
not
to
even
the
going to
point.
make that claim. I'm just going to say that there's a button that we haven't reached yet, and we've got a major driving force through human history to get there. And, you know, is it going to bring anything good? Not necessarily, but ecstasy may be involved. Like not the drug, but I mean, just the experience, you know.
Yeah,
Guess it could be some of that too.
why not?
Yeah,
It,
you know, it's so I because I'm not a licensed medical practitioner, I kind of like that I don't, I mean, I can have opinions about these things that don't have to stay within the bounds of like, yes, let's make people better. Yes, let's bring people to a place of healing. Like, let's, you know, I'm not recommending it for others, but I very much want to design machines that freak me out more than I've ever been freaked out before.
well, then so what was that place that's in Las Vegas that
Yeah, last time we were talking about Meow Wolf.
we're okay, yeah. And so like comparison to that, like where does that kind of fall?
Well,
Like with the you know,
I see those type of things is like they have like they're made, it's psychedelic art, it's an immersive experience, it's designed that you can go there with kids or like on a date. But there are, I mean, I was there having like, I was, you know, my jaw hurt from grinning too much the entire time. Because it was just awesome. Like I had a great time there, but I think there's always going to be, again, when you open something to the public, you immediately have a lot more safety requirements, and there's got to be fire escapes and sprinklers and like, you know, ways to handle different situations when people don't, when somebody has an adverse response to the situation you created. And so, you know, it's like they're shooting for not getting sued.
right.
You know, again, if I'm experimenting on myself, like I'm willing to accept a higher rate of casualties because
It's you.
yeah, exactly.
You're not gonna sue yourself.
Not at this point. Um,
Ah, shit. Okay, all right.
yeah,
Cool.
that's the next level, right?
Right.
$5 million lawsuit against Dean Garlington filed by Dr.
Yeah.
Ian.
Who is this guy?
Got to get
And
insurance to cover that.
yeah. And so, but I mean, like, so what about if is there a way to do it with multiple people at once? Or is this a solo fucking mission? I mean,
We
could you both be driving the fucking car?
when we first
Or they,
designed it, we were making a hexagon that had about a 22-foot diameter, and so the idea was that up to, you know, probably 4, maybe 5 or 6 people could go into it at once. But at this point, just because you know, we had some changes in our funding and then a little bit more about our setup, we're going to start by just making sure we get all the like hardware technology down first. So we're working on our prototypes, and then I think at the point at which we have some success with our own little like kind of smaller individual things, then we could start figuring out how to scale it a little bit larger.
so theoretically, how large could you scale it? I mean, could you do the whole let's say somehow you get the whole fucking world to come into one place. Could you theoretically do the whole world?
I I
If
I don't know.
everybody,
I
yeah,
mean, you could. Yeah, I mean, I see festivals where people have all sorts of crazy audiovisual technology available to them, where they're able to create, you know, big giant things that thousands of people experience at once. But again, that's like a kind of a different level for it. I mean, right now, just I'll start with one. If we can
yeah.
reach 2, then I'll be happy with that too.
I mean, yeah, that's two people's lives has completely changed. And you
Yeah.
know, being able to change a life is pretty fucking cool, you know?
Again, I don't want to promise life-changing things either. It might just be something
But
that's
it
creation on, you know, Friday
but
evenings.
has it changed Ian's life? Dr. Ian's life
The
in
machines
his
haven't, but some of the other things have for sure.
so and yeah, I mean you're being able to compound those and yeah, like that's how it was like with uh
Yeah, we're gonna ramify it.
yeah. So what like with have you gone and done the float tank before? Have you done those?
I you know, like I had a friend visiting from Japan, and I told him I would take him on like the acid walk of Portland. So we took the bus downtown, and we were just marching through the city the entire time. And for some reason, float tanks came up, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've got a friend who's got a float shop. We're gonna walk over to it. So I hadn't seen him for, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him for years. And you know, like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, we burst through the front door of this thing. I got my camera on and out, like with a tripod and like big mic out, and I'm like, you know, Dylan, I haven't seen you. And I give him a hug, and he's like, well, what's going on, guys? And we're like, we're here to float. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty booked up right now. And I'm like, we're here to float. And he's like, you guys can't be in here like this right now. Like, you got to leave. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. And he's like, here, we'll put you in the schedule book, but only requirement is that you have to float completely sober the first time. And I was like, So anyways, yeah, we did go back and float eventually. I haven't had a lot of experience in float tanks. I know that a lot of people have had a lot more. I mean, but even him, like, even when he was getting into it, he was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast and hearing about, like, you know, smoking DMT and going in the isolation tank each day. And
Yeah. And
I think a lot of people know about that.
Yeah, so I took I saw that, or noticed that you can, when they get you out, they play the music a little bit. They do like time to get the fuck out here. Let me turn up the music a little bit and get you out. So I was like, well, if they're putting that in at the end, they can put that in throughout the whole time. There's no reason why they can't do that. So with hypnosis, you are not allowed to do hypnosis on a client. So I wanted to go and put it together with a massage, because I was like, a massage feels fucking pretty damn good. Like, it's pretty nice. So like, I put hypnosis with it, some sort of relaxation hypnosis with it. That'd be cool. But you can't hypnotize people in the same room if the people are naked. So I was like, okay, so that won't work. But I was like, well, with the float tank, if I can record it, so I'm not like just sitting there in the fucking black room. And also with those, like, the difference between being in one of those egg pods or being in like a full room is a big fucking difference. Like, I don't like doing the egg pod things because I feel like there's always a bit of light and you can still kind of hear shit. But I don't know what the float shop has, if it has those, or if it has like the rooms you walk into. And okay, so what did you do?
I did the egg.
Okay, you should if you go back and do it again, do the other one. It's a lot better.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I feel everything's a lot more like pitch black and dark. But yeah, so yeah, my friend Crystal and I, we went there, or went to the one, I won't say they're one of their competitors, but another one that's in the area. And at nighttime you can go in there and do long ones. And so we both had relaxation hypnosis put in like at the beginning of the float. So yeah, and it's only like 25 minutes or so. And then I think we were in there for like 2.5 hours or something. And so then just have 2 hours to just chill out. But then like that compound of the hypnosis plus the float tank together, put it on top of each other. And like, I was totally 100% sober at that point too. And I assume if other stuff is added into it, which I haven't got to do yet on a float tank, and that is something that I would like to get to that point. But I think, yeah, the more things you can do, like there's not really a limit to how many different things you can put on, like you're saying with the helmet. And does the helmet have a name, or do I just call it the helmet?
My friend, no, he collects. I mean, it probably does. He collects a bunch of different devices, and so we've just been experimenting with trying to figure out how to program for a couple of them. But right now, no, the thing that we're developing doesn't have a specific name. He's using something by I think it's OpenBCI.
Okay.
And BCI, I think, is brain computer interface or something like that. Like, they were doing like, he was sending me these videos of like some masterclass they were offering, and it was showing like the installation of like brain scanning electrodes, like intracranial, Like it was like they actually had the head open and they were like installing it into the brain, and then like pictures that he was showing me. I'm like, I'm
Holy
not quite
shit.
ready for that, but it just seems as though that same company, like whatever BCI or not, what was the company called? Well, this one's a little different from what he was sending me the link for yesterday, but yeah, this is. Let me just paste it in the chat.
There we go. This is it. Oh, okay. All right.
So then if you scroll down, like I'm not quite sure exactly what that thing is. This is the type of stuff that he's got, is like these
it looks like this shit.
electrode caps. Yeah, yeah. If you go a little lower, there might be some other examples.
Okay. So it looks, so is this the same thing that they have on the AI dolls, like on the uh same sort of thing? Is this a real person?
I'm
I don't know.
assuming that's a real person.
Okay. Uh, and so
Yeah.
that's some.
Look, I mean, look at that synthetic telepathy with subvocal recognition, where you can train it basically to when you think verbally, that it would be able to translate those verbal thoughts into text.
Oh, holy shit. Okay.
Imagine if we both had the helmets on and we could hear each other thinking. Because I mean, it's taking, like, I don't know exactly how that works, but at least that seems to be like what that thing is implying.
Yeah, like I think of that Chappelle show skit where with Dave Chappelle where he's walking around and yeah, has like the inner thoughts of everybody, where he has the video camera going around and can do it. And so I mean, especially like in a state where you're, you know, in that heightened state of existence and awareness and shit,
Yeah.
where you already kind of lose that filter, and a lot of your, you know, it's already kind of out there, and without saying
I mean, I
it
got a chance
text.
to try one of these in a like a party situation. And you know, so I was surrounded by people that I liked, and we had it set up that it was using Bluetooth to broadcast my brainwaves onto the wall.
What
So
by that?
we had a projector, and it was showing my brainwaves like up on the wall. And so, you know, it was just kind of, it was my first time to ever put one of those on, but people would be like, all right, you know, tell an embarrassing story from something that happened to you when you were a kid. And everybody'd like look at the wall and see like what went up. And they'd be like, all right, now do a bunch of jumping jacks. And so I started doing jumping jacks and like burpees and push-ups. And you could see like a different part of my brain like activating and stuff. And they're like, all right, now meditate. And I'd like try to like close my brain way down. And then what people thought was interesting is like comparing my brainwaves and my responses to that of other people who weren't tripping out.
Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, we weren't measuring anything scientifically, but it was just like, you know, pure, like we're all staring at the graphs and just trying to see like, okay, look, Ian's brain is doing this one thing, but everybody else's brain is doing this other thing. So, and I mean, regardless of anything we came to a conclusion of, like, I was having a great time.
Was it different parts of your brain, or was it the same parts of your brain amplified?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we noticed that like just different parts of the brain were kind of doing stuff, or like there were certain times where like lots of different sections of the brain were like activated.
Whereas normally it might be like one or two sections of the brain, but this would be
When you're
like
kind of on
4 or
autopilot
5 or
doing
so.
some things when you're sober, versus like having other sections, like seemed like there was just more activity. But I don't know. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing that we were playing around with. And then we figured that if we were to take the excitement and translate that into something that was like more experiential, like connect it to a really, really big subwoofer and have it change like the, you know, the tone or whatever, that's like, you know, which frequency it's vibrating at, like goes up and down based on like certain areas of your brain activating, like you'd feel that like the whole room would kind of jostle or whatever a little bit from that like low vibrations. So that's one of the things, basically a strobe light and a big sub, I think would be the two things that really kind of get you going.
So whatever your brain is reacting to on that level, like when you see whatever is reacting to and the waves are going more in that way, then you just notice that, take that, and whatever is going up the most, you crank up the the power on that? I guess I don't know if power is the
Yeah,
right
like
word.
I think you would basically have the thing is exporting data over something called OSC, which is kind of similar to MIDI, and
Oh,
you
okay.
assign like a particular, like it's measuring 13 points of the brain, so you could choose a specific area that you wanted to map to, like for example the volume control or the on that sub. And so that when your brain's not active at all, it's not doing much, but when suddenly it starts getting more and more active, you could have that, like for example you had like a particular note playing, and you would have it modulate either the volume or some other effect like the pitch or something like that, based on that one area of your brain. And so you could do that, like you could have your frontal cortex controlling like the complexity of the melody playing, and you could have like other areas of your brain affecting like a stutter effect or beat repeat on like a drum track. And so that, you know, it would probably be hard to like precisely create music with your brain, but you could do things either physically or mentally that would cause the music to change to some degree, whether you have a lot of like, it's not like a, you know, you're not composing a symphony with your mind, but at the same time the music is being modulated by what's happening in your head.
So do you think if you're more musically inclined in the first place that you would be able to kind of notice this if you're looking at this shit in real time, to be able to kind of train your brain to go a certain way to be able to possibly make those make it into a composition that would make sense?
I think that it's your brain waves are kind of unwieldy. Like it's pretty hard to get. I mean, you could probably practice in a way that you'd be able to be like, okay, I'm meditating so I can do this, and then when I'm doing this I can get it to increase. But really it kind of has a mind of its own in a sense. So I don't know how much control a person would be able to bring into it, but yeah, that's what we're playing around with right now.
Yeah, it's fucking just it's just a weird fucking world, man. Like that's something that it came to, and like that's I mean, because we talked about how it came up, I think on the last one, how it all came to, and uh I just been thinking about it, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, and it's one of those like like people. I feel like people who are listening are gonna have to go and stop, and it's gonna take maybe if like a day or two to let it really sink in. Is it so? Like if you're talking to average Joe, but the average Joe's probably not listening to this show, but talking to the average Joe, and you're talking about this. Is this where's like average Joe? Where's dude who's like
Like
pretty into this, or where's people who are like very against it? Are any of those things changing at all on the levels of where they feel they are, or it's just if you're there, you're there,
I tried to
and you're
tell my
not, you're
neighbor
not.
about it, and he was sitting there having a beer, and I was just like, you know, I was pretty excited, and I sat down in a lawn chair next to him and was like, yeah, and then we're gonna do this, and then the brain feeds back with this and that, and then, you know, after about 5 minutes, he's like, dude, I'm sorry, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. And
So
that's kind of I think, like, you know, the Starbucks staff at the Starbucks that I hang out at, like they hear
right.
about it sometimes when I'm ordering my coffee, and they're just like, Ian, we're so proud of you. We don't know what you do, but we're just really proud of you. And like, you know, that's
Yeah,
I think that's where most people want to leave it. They're like, oh, that guy's trying hard on something. Like, good for him.
yeah, I hope when your book comes out, your next book, that it has that on the like the first, like the when people write their the forward and stuff, it'll be like Starbucks staff, like, hey Ian, like I don't know what he's doing, but he happy he's doing it, man. He's doing
Good for
great at
effort.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that's something that's gone through going through your brain? And if it would be a book, would it be something that wouldn't be just only text, or is another book something that you're looking into doing? I don't know if we talked about this last time or not. You
Yeah.
talked
I
about
mean,
your other book.
I'd yeah, I'd like to. I don't know whether a book's most effective. Like my question is kind of like, you know, I spent a lot of time reading books, and I find that like giving books to people usually isn't very effective. Like most people don't read the book you give them, or it's kind of like, I don't like it when people give me books because they're basically like, hey, here, give me 10 to 20 hours of your life to, process through this thing that you may or may not be interested in. And so I don't really want to ask people to read stuff that they're not into, but so I've kind of played around, like, is it better to have like some sort of, technology is changing a lot, different media is available. So it seems like what audience is best. Like, I don't know if the book is the best format, or like, maybe 1 minute short form vertical videos on, YouTube and TikTok, or I don't know exactly. That's a question I think a lot of people have right now, is kind of, if you're a creator, is like, who are you creating for? Where's your audience? What's the platform? Like, I know Jeremy said he's struggling with making music right now because he can't visualize who's listening to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, he said that's, so I've started like trying to use his music in my car commercials and stuff, and I'm like, well, it may not be your ideal audience, but you've got 30,000 people that like Toyota trucks who have now heard your song.
Which is cool. I mean, yeah, it's like that. Uh, sometimes stuff just sits around. It's like, well, what do I do with this? Like,
Yeah,
who's gonna, you know? But then you never know, because then you get something like that, and like having those tunes, yeah, go out to something different, and it's because I mean, yeah, it's hard too. Like uh with Jeremy, or who's a million times better at making music than I am.
me,
But yeah, but then like uh, being able to, type in like, oh, make me this fucking song, and fucking 15 seconds later it's done. And it's the same thing with this. Like, I could right now take everything that I've done with this show, fucking upload it, and have it like continuously make me content forever, and I can just fucking go die right now, and it'll create it forever, and I never have to think about anything ever again in my life. But is that where we want to go? But I mean, or why, if we're not going there, someone else is going to go there. But then I got to think, like, with that, like with like the stuff that people can do with music who are not musically inclined right now is going to be cool. And then I think the people who are very musically inclined can take what those people are doing and
we can,
fucking up it again. And I think that's what's going to kind of need to happen. And
yeah,
because yeah.
I would say that, yeah, definitely, as we see more AI music coming out, and especially like real-time generation of it, that would be the next step, is like, because all those, as I was saying, you basically, with your brain waves, when it's low activity, that's closer to 0, and then with high activity, that would be 1. And so it's sending us like a real-time data of a very, like a parameter or a number that's between 0 to 1, and that's using that to affect like a slider on something. So I was giving the examples of like affecting like a drum track or the melody or something like that, but you could affect pretty much anything. Like if it was the same program that we're routing through to go to Ableton could be used to route into like a 3D engine like Unreal 5 or something like that. And in that, you can, they have all sorts of like environmental controls. Like you could have your brainwaves affect the weather in the environment that you're in. Like you could have, it rain or clouds form or like snowfall and things like that based on like different things going on. So there's, I think
Oh,
if you were, yeah, I think that like what you were saying, like the way that AI is going to streamline or automate so much of the adjustments in what we see and hear, that like, for example, like, it's not just like, okay, this is increasing or decreasing the volume on this, but like you could map it to something that would, like, for example, you have like a reggae knob, and it like basically takes whatever you're listening to and it basically converts it into reggae to a various, like, in different degrees, and like, okay, yeah, 100% reggae, but now it's only 50% reggae, so you can still hear a little bit of the Metallica in there, whatever it is that you originally uploaded. But like this idea that it could, I mean, maybe that's not a perfect example, but that's just kind of like the thought that comes to my mind, is like, what, like with a lot of those things automated, like what could be like, what are you affecting with those like 0 to 1 variables?
so I mean, is that something that is going with it as well, going into the real-time video mapping of possibly something of that, like what, like you were saying, with changing the weather, Like if you're going
Yeah,
driving through Tokyo, all of a sudden you get a rainstorm, and then yeah, you
by your brain.
start.
Yeah, I
Ah,
mean, really,
fuck.
like that's yeah, I think all that is like definitely pretty, we're getting closer to that for sure. Like again, I haven't played around enough with Unreal 5, but I watched some tutorials of it, and it seems as though there's just so many things that can be affected in real time with that, whether it's yeah, just all sorts of stuff. Like I know Bryce, the guy who I'm working on this with, previously had created, he worked on a team that was making a game to train people to get into a flow state of brain. And in the game, like when your brain waves got to the right level, the car that you were driving would drive faster. So your brain waves were connected to the software, and then you would get like a speed boost when you got your brain into the flow state. So it was trying to train you to always get into that state so that you'd be able to perform better
That's
than.
that's what I did when I was doing that neurofeedback. That's exactly what I was doing, and then
Yeah,
get me to that point. And it was supposed to help with because I didn't want to take uh any Ritalin or that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And so I went and I did this as an alternative.
cool.
And yeah, it was getting into that flow state, like where we need to get it to, the car will start speeding up. And I don't know, seem to, I know how to get there now. And
Yeah, right.
that's, yeah, without, just like, or how people do it. They might not have a crazy stare on their face, but
They get there somehow. Yeah.
yeah, they get there somehow. And shit. So what would happen if someone else was watching what their output was? What would that do to their brain waves or their state of mind? Like if someone like
You were standing in the room with them and you saw all this on the screen.
yeah,
I
what would
mean,
you go into that state of mind, or would you still be in your state of mind kind of changed a little bit, or I don't know.
I don't know. We thought about that. Like we thought about making like an observation room. Like we have the test chamber, and then we have like a window,
Oh,
and then we have the observation room, and then I think last year like we were really excited about the potential for Chat GPT and then metahumans and something called Whisper GPT to all get connected. So it would be the idea that you could talk in real time and have like voice to text, basically translate your speech to text that's an input into Chat GPT, and then the answer would then be spoken by a metahuman. So it takes that text and then animates. Metahuman is like a way of generating like fake people in Unreal 5. It's like a
oh,
free thing that is out there where you can make like ultra realistic non-existent people, and then they can all be mapped. So you would be able to have it take the text that you generated and have it speak it through the face of the metahuman. Basically, I wanted
okay.
like a C3PO type thing, right? Because I kind of figured that's like what Chat GPT is it's basically like slightly over polite AI thing that people talk shit to and make feel bad because they don't want to hurt a real person's feelings.
I-
But I mean,
I'm
in
very
Star
nice
Wars,
to
like
it.
C3PO took a lot of shit. Like people talk some mad shit to that guy throughout the movie. And I mean, sure,
Yeah,
he was annoying sometimes, but like, and you see what people do to abuse Chat GPT right now too. And so I figured that like the faster we could get it to have its own face and its own voice and be something that you could like talk to, like I wanted to just bring like a laptop with me everywhere I go and be like, oh, that's my droid buddy. And like just keep it
right.
open and like, it's just there all the time when I need something. I'm like, hey. And so that was one of the ideas is that in the waiting room, like while the person, like if you two people are in, one person's like in the test chamber seeing the strobe lights and the other guy's watching through the window, that at the same time that there's like a while you're in the waiting room, you're interacting with or talking with some kind of sketchy metahuman that's like been fed various amounts of information about you or your friend or whatever it is that is hopefully able to increase the level of uncomfortability.
So I mean, would everyone have their own individual C3PO type metahuman, or would that be one
I
that would
mean,
be adaptable to everybody?
we're gonna have our first one that would just be ours that would talk to whoever was in the room. But I mean, theoretically, everybody could have like their little droid buddy.
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
I remember
C3PO.
I think Rudy Rucker's like Where Tetralogy, science fiction books from the 90s. He got the Philip K. Dick Award a few times for it. It's great books. But like on the moon, the characters like have these like familiars or avatars of some kind. They're like these little like pint-sized humans. They're like I think 2 feet tall, and they're scaled proportionately, so it's like a little person. And they basically like run around. They're kind of annoying, but they're kind of like, imagine if your cats could like talk and do more like kind of like interactive things. And so people, I think, instead of pets, just have these like weird little robot humans that are like not full-size robots, but like little tiny like 2 foot tall things that kind of like run around and do stuff.
Like
And
robotic?
yeah, like
Or
they're like little robots, but they're a little more advanced. And so I figured that like that's where I want my metahuman to end up, is like I'd like it to be like a fully functional 2 foot tall person that like runs around and can something I can interact with.
so I mean, to interact with it, would it be for what purpose to interact with it? Would it be for just
Companionship.
everything? To be
I mean,
okay.
friend, or
Yeah.
maybe I need to like. Well, I mean, what are people using Chat GPT for? And like, if it's just for text, like, what could you, what kind of things would you ask it? Like, that's the kind of things, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean,
Comic
and
relief.
yeah. I mean, I've seen some people fucking ask ChatGPT some shit and find ways around it to get around the parameters of ChatGPT and yeah, it's interesting. But then as far as uh I just lost the other part. What was the other part you were just saying about it?
Little robots, Chat GPT.
But that it could also do
What's
companionship,
that?
and what was the other thing?
You could ask it to do like, I don't know, what are people normally doing? Companionship or
So I mean,
comic
like,
relief?
comic relief. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, so I took my jokes that I wrote fucking in 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, and put those in, and I'm like, give me 10 new fucking punchlines for this shit. And like one or two of them were really good, like each time I did them. And I keep thinking how many people are doing like using ChatGPT now. They're doing comedy. Um, and why not? Why not? And like, 'cause I thought about this too. I'm like, well, and I can't remember shit. I have a horrible memory as far as short-term memory, and I don't like repeating myself. That's why I have a podcast. I don't want to recite the same thing over and over. It would drive me
Yeah, that
crazy.
makes sense.
And
That way
so
you're not
like,
like up on stage delivering the same line like 500 times and be like, this is when they're gonna laugh.
yeah, right. And it was hard, like especially like with open mics. You got people, I've seen them like, oh, here he goes for the 87th time telling the same joke that I've heard, and then there's like 4 people in the audience, and then like 20 comics or something, and it's just like, oh, okay, this here it comes again. And but then if I took my phone, so everyone can know this before I'm doing this, and take it, say all my jokes out, and then have like pauses that I think that will be just like, and then just play it in my ear and then just say it. Like if I was doing acting or something, that's what I would do. I get a little tiny thing. I would say all the lines because I can't remember lines, and just
Yeah.
like do that and just recite them out my mouth. And I bet, with ChatGPT, come up with shit every fucking night and have, I don't know, at least test it out and be able to have something probably pretty quick. And especially if you have something of a C3PO comic relief with you to be able to feed off of you. And then you could just fucking go. Like, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that hasn't, I don't know. I don't know what people are doing now. I haven't been to a comedy show for a little while, but I see some people doing comedy, and I assume some people are using some Chat GPT to come up with shit. And who says you can't?
Why
Call
not,
me a
man?
hack. Yeah.
Yeah, I had it write like a Japanese folk song about selling old four-wheel drive vans in Portland,
Holy
and
shit.
Japanese, and it did it. I showed my Japanese friends, and they're like, "It's fucking perfect."
Have
Like
you gotten to make it?
the song.
Yeah.
No, we never performed it or anything. I mean, I guess we could try to have
I,
some Japanese people tell me how to do it, and
I mean, I think you have to now. Like,
yeah, I guess the
uh,
song does exist somewhere, so I could probably go back and find the record of it and then see if we can make a recording.
yeah, I mean, it's at the time, like the idea, like I was saying back with the music, but the idea without having the know-how is something that's like as a purist of so many things, it's hard to be like, ah, you son of a bitch, man, or like writing a book. I made a book called, I don't even know what the book was called, uh, and it was very short. It was like, oh god damn, I don't even know what it was called. That's how I talk about my book.
It's all right.
Uh,
It's
yeah,
short and sweet.
yeah, exactly. And um, yeah, I don't fucking know. But the fact that you can do that, and I did it, and like fucking, it took longer to put it all together than than it did for anything else. Like
Yeah.
than making the actual fucking thing. Uh, PP pool. So it was about not peeing in a pool. Oh, here we go. Pee. Yeah. Let me see if I can pull this up.
EP
So
pool.
so PP free poolside palooza by Rusty Diamond.
What the fuck is this?
So there's a book that it's basically to, because I go to the pool a lot and I go to water slide parks a lot, and I wanted to make a book about teaching kids not to piss in the pool because
Yeah.
yeah, so that's I made a book, so
Where'd you
you
get
can do
that cover art,
this.
man?
uh Fucking Chat GPT or whatever, like one of those other
Mid
things,
Journey or
like
one of the yeah.
I think it was Mid Journey. Yeah, and so
Perfect. Perfect.
yeah, so like why not, man? There's shit. I mean, no one's bought one. I haven't tried putting it out anywhere, but
My friend's
if
making coloring books for kids on Mid Journey and sells them on Amazon. Like does it was
that's
like yeah.
the thing. That's it's fucking great. Like someone who can't draw, or even if they can draw, like being able to conceptualize that and not having to, you know, spend the time to do it and just work as fast as your brain works and not have that hang up of I fucking like, or even that little thing in your head saying I fucking suck at art. I
Yeah.
can't do this. But now it's just like, dude, boom, it's done. Like I can't do art.
No, I know.
You were in my fourth and fifth grade class where we had an art teacher, and my stuff looked like it still probably is not any better than it was
Yeah,
in
right.
fourth and
Might
fifth
be too,
grade.
man. It's that
But
I had the same thing as in my my son Sam hates drawing or painting or anything like that. And yeah, we've had pretty good success with like using it for school projects and
oh, cool.
like we were doing some dioramas of the like Mesopotamian uh different like city states and like villages and towns for my daughter. And with that, like I just typed into Midjourney, I'm like claymation or diorama of Mesopotamian city state. And it just, generates like 50 different things. And so we go through and we pick the ones that look like the easiest for us to build. And then we reconstruct it in real life. And so I made like actual dioramas based on the fake dioramas that were generated through Midjourney. And the teacher was like, "We're keeping these. These are going to be our example for the future for all classes." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah, I did this right. This is perfect.
yeah, exactly." So
Oh,
I, I mean, I'm just having a great time with all of it. Like, I think, again, and it's, I just wish I had more time for playing. Like, I just wish every day, like, I had more time to just like play with all these new tools that just came out. Like, it seems like all this stuff is just still
every
so
day.
new. And then again, like, we're seeing more and more integration with like a lot of these like AI tools into, again, bringing it back to the machine or
Please do.
whatever. But yeah, like being able to generate things that would then be like automatically like integrated into something else. that was one of our ideas too, is like, well, you were like, if you were, for example, had a headset on, that like, well, if you were talking with like the things that you're saying would then be fed into Midjourney, which would then create images, which would then be put into the environment like within 30 seconds to a minute after you said it. And so like if you were having a conversation with this, for example, some AI entity, then the content of both what you're saying or what the response would be then like reflected in your environment in different ways, like either in still images that are changing or like different things like that. But just different ways that like as fast as possible we would be able to have like the content of speech turned into like some sort of experienced world. I don't know. We're working on it still, but
No,
again,
no.
it's like,
So, and I mean, just even that, like, for like even to record that, like, just for like a movie, um, again, like with hypnosis, if I have people that are get, I like to do air quotes, with this, writer's block. I like doing the past life regression or whatever you may call it, whatever the
yeah,
fuck it is. And you're going to come up with ideas. You're going to have stuff that is like so vivid and you can see everything, experience everything, and have, you know, goodbye writer's block. You have something to write about.
yeah.
And I'm doing that later on today. I haven't done it for
Cool.
like 5 years on myself. Last time I did it was, yeah, when I was training. And but yeah, I
And
mean, just,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna go somewhere different or what, but I mean, whatever, who knows what's going on in your brain, man? Like in
yeah,
your
right.
brain, like, and just being able to capture that, like, and I don't know, like, what it would be like to watch it back if whatever you're experiencing and going and watching it back, what you would feel, or like what you would be like, what the fuck was I doing there? Like, or, I don't know if it would be overanalyzed or if it would just be, watch it back and just take it in as it is. And this is what was happening or what, but
Yeah. Well,
I
good
don't
luck
know,
with it
man. Well, yeah, thank you. I fucking hope so. I hope it's, worst case, I'm going to feel good at the end of the day. So,
for
I
sure.
can't really beat that. But, so then,
Were there any other topics you did want to cover at all, or I didn't know if
no,
like,
dude, let's call it a good, call it good, man.
okay, cool. I always
Yeah.
got more content. I found this pamphlet on
Oh,
hospital planning.
then fucking bring that up. Bring that up.
Well,
I
no,
thought,
I mean we don't have to
I,
bring it up, but I'm just I got
well,
a stack of
I,
things. We got
I thought you
theory,
were
start your own
trying.
religion.
I thought you were trying to get out of here, man. So
No,
like,
I'm not trying to get out of here. I just
then
wanted to.
bring
I
it
didn't know.
up. Bring it up. You got books. Bring it up. Bring it up. Let's talk
I got
about
tons
it,
of books always, but well, like, well, you said this one like really hit home with you, right?
dude. Yeah, I have it, part of it, fucking tattooed on my. Uh, so I mean, like, it was weird, dude. Like when I read that, when you told me about that, because we were in Lake Oswego, and I remember you just come up to me and you were like, dude, man, you gotta fucking read this shit. Like, this is gonna change your life right here. And I'm like, oh, okay, again, but then it's also, you weren't giving me something that was, read this, it's gonna take you 10 hours to read. But you know what? It did take me a while because
It's
it's
a
a lot to fucking take in.
yeah, every line has significance, right? You open randomly. And by the way, like if you're not watching the video, this is Principia Discordia by Carrie Thornley and Gregory Hill. It's like a 50 something page pamphlet that they put out, I think in the late 50s, early 60s, after they had a mystical experience at a bowling alley. And then yeah, they created this book which has wisdom that will continue to ring true in the future. Like, you open randomly to page 2 and it says, remember, King Kong died for your sins.
And
And then it says Ho Chi Zen is King Kong. I think Ho Chi Zen was Carrie Thornley's pen name. And it's just,
okay,
kind of a weird, random, eclectic collage book. with various different things that I don't know exactly how they glued it all together, but
I don't either. And like you said, you can open up to any page, and wherever it is, it's something, and it's a lot of it just is, huh? It's how I felt. I felt that a bunch just looking at it and reading it, and just like,
yeah,
yeah,
like
yeah, like that.
page
Yeah.
28, how to start a POE or POEE cabal without messing around with the polyfather. I don't know who the polyfather is right now. If you can't find the polyfather, or having found him, you don't want anything to do with him, you're still authorized to form your own POE cabal and do priestly things using the Principia Discordia as your guide. Your official rank will be POE chaplain for the Legion of the Dynamic Discord, which is exactly the same thing as a POE priest, except that you don't have the ordination certificate. The words you are now reading are your ordination. And then it's
Right
got
there.
becoming a chaplain, something about a baptismal rite. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know if you've talked much about it, but or did you ever look much into Thornley or into Gregory Hill?
Not enough. Not. I don't even think I did.
The guy who made it, I don't know if I've rambled about it before, but Harry Thornley was in the Air Force back in the 1950s, and he was stationed at Atsugi military base in Japan. And when he was there, one of the other guys in his I don't know if it was a platoon or whatever his group was Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh.
So he wrote a novel about Lee Harvey Oswald back in 1961 called The Idle Warriors, and I think it's about them just like kind of doing pranks and just kind of fucking around like while they're in the Air Force and not really having much to do in post-war Japan. And you know, Oswald was kind of a weird guy. Like he was really into Marxism at the time and had a defect. I think he defected to Russia after that, like after he got out of the military. And then came back to the US. Some people thought possibly as a spy. He had a Russian wife at this point. And so Thornley then became like kind of an interest, like an object of interest for the FBI and the CIA after the assassination, because, you know, they're like, well, wait, you wrote a novel about the assassin before he did it, so what's up with your connection with him? And apparently like they kind of looked the same, and they both lived in the same area of New Orleans in like the Cuban quarter back like from like 1960 to 19 like right up till around the time that it happened. So Thornley's got just like a weird, I mean, I see him as an example of like when a person basically got killed by coincidence. Like eventually as he got older, he became more and more paranoid. He started to believe that like the CIA was influencing all of his friends and family. You know, he like called Robert Anton Wilson, who's an author I like, you know, one night and basically said, hey, you know, I know that you flew across the country and put LSD in my drink tonight, and you know, that's why I'm tripping out right now, and like it's because you laced my drink, you work for the CIA. So, you know, Robert Anton Wilson's like, well, here, you know my wife, like you can talk to her on the phone. She can tell you that I didn't fly anywhere or do anything. And he's like, no, she's an agent too. So,
Oh,
you know,
no.
Thornley became more and more paranoid. He was working as a dishwasher a lot of the time. And so he had like his fan base that would like, you know, he was known for like having people who like wanted to hang out with him and talk to him. So he'd be like washing the dishes, and he'd have like fans who wanted to like stand next to him in the kitchen like while he's at work, and the managers are like, all right, you're this weird guy who's got like a little fan club, and like you're homeless, but you've all these like giant boxes of like your anarchist literature that you bring everywhere with you. But
Holy
basically,
shit.
yeah, he kind of lost his mind, and then he wandered around in the South outside until he died from exposure, I think.
Well,
Probably when he was in his 60s. So it's, but again, like the reason that he seemed to have headed down the path of extreme paranoid schizophrenia had to do, I think, more with you know, just a series of event after event after event that led him to become just like kind of paranoid. Like he believed that he had specific evidence about what happened to JFK, and he started taking it very seriously. And I think that's one of the things that his friends and family and, you know, counselor and whatnot started to realize, is that like when he could still be a little bit like playful or a little bit like, wow, that's some crazy shit, but I don't know, and like maintain that attitude, he would be fine. But when he started being like, holy shit, man, we figured it out. Like, you know, this is the truth. Like, this is what's going on. Like, as soon as he started to get that certainty, that like brought about a certain seriousness. And the
Yeah.
seriousness is like, once you've seen something that you don't really know how to process, if you become serious about it, then it tends to become kind of either a fixation or like a single thing that can destroy you. And that seems to be kind of what happened with him, is that he literally like lost the ability to laugh and joke around. And as he got older, like he just became completely consumed by this like single paranoid vision of like what happened to the president and his relationship to that. Because they
Well,
started to suspect him as being the assassin at some point, and there was a bunch of other there's a bunch of weird files about him. And Oliver Stone interviewed him a lot before they made the movie JFK. He's not,
yeah.
yeah, he wasn't in it, but I don't think they included a character for him either. But at the same time, like it seems like some things of his version did make it into some of the more mainstream like conspiracy versions.
'Cause, yeah, I mean, like, how do you come back from that? How do you come back from someone thinking that you fucking killed the president? Like, where? How do you like? No, I guess it was just a mistaken identity, and I guess I'm going with life now. I think that'd be
Well,
hard to come back.
like his brother was hospitalized too for prolonged exposis or prolonged psychosis as a result of LSD, which is like a small percentage of the population is more susceptible to that. Like if you trip out a whole lot, that some people just have a tendency to experience like long-term, not long-term, but like you can, I mean, Robert Crumb said the same thing, the comic artist, said that like in his most creative period, like there was one point where he'd just been doing tons of acid and he just had a break from reality where he had like a full month where he was just like out of his mind, like completely out of his mind. And like all of his characters came out of that month, and like everything that was important for his creativity in the future all came from that like complete break. But it was just like a full month of being insane. Or like you know, Terrence McKenna was
Yeah,
a famous kind of psychedelic I don't even know what you call him, ethnobotanist. He had
good way to
been
put it.
he took his brother Dennis down to I think it's in the book True Hallucinations, describes going to the upper Amazon basin in search for I think ayahuasca. And when they were
Shit.
looking for it, though, they ended up in some village that had like a cow pasture, and in the cow pasture they found a bunch of mushrooms. And so they ate the mushrooms, and his younger brother Dennis like lost his mind and like was like fully just out of his mind for I think it was about a month. And they had a problem because he kept going into the like city or in the like the center of this like little town that they were staying in, and at 2 or 3 in the morning he would ring the fire alarm, and so everybody would wake up. And they said basically like we're gonna fucking kill you if you wake us all up in the middle of the night again. Like stop doing that. Like we're gonna kick you out. And so Terrence is sitting there trying, begging his brother, like, please come back, please be normal again, like, please do anything, because he can't go back to the States and tell his parents that he destroyed his kid brother by giving him like psychedelic drugs and having him basically just go completely insane permanently. And eventually Dennis did, you know, come back home mentally to the point at which I think he's still a pretty functional guy now. But yeah, there does seem to be, and I think so, Carrie, and it seems to be somewhat hereditary, like that you'd have a proclivity or like a higher chance that you would end up in one of those like states of psychosis. And so I think that could have factored into it with Carrie Thornley too. But
Have you experienced any people like that before who have gone into that? You don't have to name names or anything, but I know a couple instances, kind of different instances of people, two different people that had some interesting, and I don't know if they've, I know one of them's mostly come back, and the other one I lost touch with probably 20 years ago, but
okay.
had some shit go on. But
Yeah, no, I've seen a couple people who've I don't know anybody personally who's like had like a prolonged break with reality as a result of psychedelic drugs, but I could definitely see that that's a thing for some people.
yeah, I knew this guy. He someone like he took ate a bunch of fucking mushrooms, and someone told him that like he was the Truman Show,
Yeah,
and that
it's a good thing to tell people, I think. I mean, that's
yep, and so then that just it stuck, And so then it was, I'm gonna take a lot more, so I'll be more entertaining when everyone's watching me.
Yes,
Um,
yes. What a great response.
yeah,
When
yeah,
you've discovered the paranoid reality that is everything is just a giant TV set, and maybe the spectators are just everybody else in the world, and this is a fake set, or maybe it's a bunch of, maybe it's an intergalactic show. But I absolutely love anything that suggests that it's all entertainment, but not for us. Like
yeah,
we are the thing that's entertaining, not the thing that's being entertained. And as soon as we realize that, I think that suddenly our morals change, because if the only justice that exists in the universe then is some sort of like weird aesthetically based justice, like the only thing that could be good is to be most entertaining, and the only thing to be bad would be to be boring. And so maximizing your entertainment value for the audience, which you don't really have a way to perceive.
right. You just hope.
Yeah, but I
Hope.
mean, you can, because I mean, you see a lot of philosophers, sometimes kind of sketchy ones, suggesting that what other point could there be? Like, why would anything exist? Why do things exist in the way they do? Why would we have creatures that are alive but are like fairly unaware, in a sense? Like, we have explanations of, like, from biological, like evolutionary perspectives, which explain kind of a necessity for everything, but at the same time, just this idea that that it's all just entertainment and fodder for the gods, and we're not one of them.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I have no clue. I wish I knew what this, I mean, I hope that it's gone past that, but I mean, yeah, this was probably like 20 years ago, that the last time I saw him. And
Truman Show, man.
yeah, yep. And I mean, his name was crazy. And then his name before he went to this, before he taught Truman Show, um, I don't know. I hope it's Coolio for him now, and he found a way to, embrace whatever it is. And yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's because I've heard some people say that everyone needs to do it, and I've also heard that some people absolutely should not do it.
Yeah, I think
And
it's different people are in different places in life, and I think if you if you are going to get, if you require a fairly complex, if you require a pretty stable like concrete explanation of how things are going in the world in order for you to function well, then it might not be a good idea. If you require like very low context in terms of being it, like if you can accept unpredictability and like uncertainty and things like that, then yeah, it's something that could be more of a benefit. But I think that definitely, like, you're opening yourself up, and if you suddenly open yourself up and then when you kind of close up again, if you end up fixating onto something, whether it's a different religion, even if it's new, even if it's a different religion or a different set of symbols, like you're still repeating that same pattern of like having belief that you believe in and causes you to act in a certain way and stresses you out in a certain way. Whereas it seems like more of like a radical agnosticism where you're like, hey, I don't know what the fuck any of this is. Seems to be the only way to really get out of it. Like otherwise, you either don't know the truth and you can admit that you don't know, or you convince yourself that you do know the truth, and then you're kind of fucked because you're like, prone for being panicked because you're like, oh shit, and
yeah,
we see that even without psychedelics. Like you get people who, they see America as being controlled by a socialist takeover or some sort of whatever political story it is that you're convinced is exactly what's going on. Like that's going to most times end up as kind of a nightmarish scenario. And, depending on how nightmarish it is, you got to do something about it. Like it's like, holy shit, like everything's falling apart. We gotta take care of it. Well, of course everything's falling apart. Like everything's been falling apart since people started paying attention, because the nature of our perception is that we see things in like kind of an entropic way. Like we see the way in which things break apart. We don't see the way in which new things really come into being. We can't sense directly like how complexity works or like dynamic systems work. We can't understand how life works, like because it's extremely complicated and not like the thing humans are really good at is taking dead stuff and recombining it to making tools or into other stuff. We can take inert matter and combine it in different ways to make, we can manufacture stuff, but we can't manufacture life very well, at least at this point. And our way of understanding things through our intellect and our words doesn't really seem to be helping us closer to that per se. It's like kind of there, we have an inkling of what these things are, and we know that we're not very good at managing them, like life systems as a whole.
Right. Well, I mean, then is that going to take us into the full immersion forever? Full immersion forever, never leaving immersion of being plugged in to I mean this whatever, you know, or like augmented reality forever, and just sort of, or what, you know, the matrix, I guess, kind of a dealio. I
I
mean,
mean, for some people, probably. Other people will be like, no, that's not the answer. It's this other thing. So, I mean, we'll have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea where it's headed.
Well, and then also, so another thing with the trip, uh, because I was always under the impression that you have to be in like the best spot to trip. Like you got to be fucking, you don't want to have a bad trip. But one of my co-hosts was saying that like it's the absolute best time to, if you're going to have that bad trip, it's something that you need to experience and something you need to work out, and you're not going to have a better way to do it than at this point, and it's being brought to you at this point because you have the best tool to be able to understand it and get through. And it was kind of oh shit, okay,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
could.
confronting, not confronting, but yeah, like when you're not in the best space, sometimes that can be like the thing that pushes you over the edge. Because it's like you were saying, you know, the breakdown is the breakthrough. Like you get to you know, you need a certain amount of energy to overcome like just exhaustion and fear. And it seems like, you know, sometimes that pushes you to that point where the stuff that typically your brain would just be like, no, I don't got time for that right now, or like, no, I'm just gonna block that out. Like you don't really have a choice. Like it's like, okay, now we're gonna, you know, it's got you by the back of the head, and it's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do for the next 3 or 4 hours. And like you said, sometimes that's, from the outside it seems like the last thing anybody would choose, but I totally agree with that guy that like a lot of the times that's where the most interesting things happen, is through those unpleasant psychological states that, you know, panic attacks,
Yeah.
fear, whatever it is that you're dealing with. Like it's an interesting question. It's like, I think there's lots of different approaches to it though.
Yeah, I mean, do you go and you try to fucking only think good thoughts, and just totally dismiss it, and then but it's that push it down even further for it to come up in an opportune time. But in I mean, I've had 5 minutes probably in all the time that I've tripped that wasn't great. It wasn't a bad trip. It was just a interesting experience that I was like, oh well shit, this is like I was with the group of, there was a 6 of us, and we were downtown Portland, and or no, there was 5 of us, and someone picked us up, and there was a car with 5 seats, and 4 people got in, and I was left behind, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. Then I ran into my cousin, and
Yeah.
who was in a cult, and that was the last time I saw him. He was in a cult, and he just showed up. This was like near, like at Portland State. Just
Yeah.
showed up and started talking to me for, it felt like a long time, and then I just was like, then I started talking to him. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. Like, this is just what it is, and like, okay, fine. So, but if I wouldn't have seen him. I wouldn't have experienced him there. I've not seen him for, you know, however many years, probably, you know, at least 5, 10 years at that point. I think I was like 19 or 20 around then. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, okay. So, but then, yeah, then I was fine. And it was something like, could have gone bad, but it was something like, okay, well, why is this bad? And then I think after that, then I was like, okay, well, I guess now I'm just gonna try to make sure I don't have a bad trip. But then when my buddy said that, like, it's okay to have go down that bad way, and like, I'm like, oh well, maybe, like, because I always had the rule, like, if I'm not feeling like I want to be tripping, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
yeah.
only gonna do it if I'm in the right space. But
That's usually probably not a bad way, but again, I agree.
yeah,
There could be other situations where you're like, all right, maybe it's time to see what happens.
yeah, and I mean sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's just for, I don't know, the personal enlightenment, and which is there's never enough personal enlightenment, and it's always an okay thing to have. And when you tell people that, when you go, so one time I went into a like a job placement place,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh, you went to college? What'd you go to college for?" I said, "Personal enlightenment." They surprised they did not want to work with me after that when I told them that.
Yeah, you
But
don't want to work with people who don't want to hire you for that. I mean,
right, they weren't my people, so I was
yeah,
like,
no,
okay,
exactly.
but
You gotta feel it out right at the beginning. So you said the right answer, I think.
yeah, yeah, right. And so but that was, I went to college. I didn't, I don't know. I wanted to learn stuff, and it was a lot harder to learn stuff than it is now. That, 20 some years ago, it was a lot harder we didn't have as much access to information as we do now, even though now we have a lot of access to information, but still want to make it difficult. But
Yeah. No, I know
yeah,
what you mean. There are a lot of options for learning if you're into it right now. Like
right.
online courses and all sorts of different things just being put out by people. Like information is out there. It's just, do we have the self-discipline and the drive to sort through it to find the thing that we think is going to be most effective, and then have the discipline to stick with it until we actually gain from it.
Yeah. And when do you know you gain from it? And
Good point. Yeah. Well, when
that's
you're enlightened.
when you're what?
When you're enlightened.
When you're enlightened, when you've reached that personal enlightenment.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Make
I
progress
mean,
every day.
yeah. And as long as we're going forward and learning whatever it needs to be learned that day. Someday it's learning about some mundane shit, but it might not be mundane shit.
Yeah, for
Mundane
sure.
shit doesn't have to be mundane shit. I don't know, man.
No, no, I
I
hear
don't,
you, man.
I
Yeah.
don't fucking know. But there's so much of us that is looking for, like, with what you're doing, like looking for how to maximize what can be done with what we have now. Like, I want, so I actually just uh sold like 3 cents. Um, but I kept my Casio keyboard because I can go and I can take that, like, I had this 1 cent that was like fucking, I had it for 5 6 years, and I still fucking can't, like, get everything out of it. I can't go and fully squeeze all the juice out of that fucking orange.
Yeah, right.
But this Casio keyboard, I can take every little bit of that, and like back with with Jeremy, with all his circuit bending, and then what everything else kind of went to, and like being able to, yeah, get every last drop out of something, as opposed to just sort of getting a little bit. And
Yeah.
I mean, us there's so much more that just can get overlooked out of simplicity. There's nothing wrong with simplicity.
No. Not at all, because everything's super complex. And if it's complex, like it takes more time, and the more time it takes, like, as you know, our lives aren't infinite. So it's kind of like, where do you want to invest your time? Like, that's one of my concerns about all the technology stuff, is just that each one of them has like a billion tutorials available online. And it's like, I just don't want to see myself like lost in some sort of like weird techno fantasy of just learning all this technology and then dying right in the middle of it without ever like doing anything with it, just being like, wow, I got all the tools, these are amazing, and then just getting old.
Right. But then, I mean, like, okay, let's say we're old. I mean,
Yeah, sure, we are.
yeah. Um, but I mean, I don't know, 30 years ago, like this isn't anything at all what, you know, we thought we'd be, at least what I thought I'd be doing, like being able to do this kind of anything and like going with this kind of thought process and experience of anything. Like it just fucking goes.
Yeah,
And it's okay like that we're older. And I mean, if we're already old, like why not fucking just do it all now and fucking just if you're doing it, you're doing it. And then, you don't have to write a manual per se, but you can fucking doing the work and having something is the manual. The manual doesn't have to be a manual.
yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, yeah, it's just getting to fucking do it. And like, it's crazy that this is stuff that we're actually doing
Experiencing.
an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's good that this is what our conversations are about, not about like, you know, you didn't bring me on to talk about, some civil war happening in some part of America or something like that. Like, we're lucky that we're talking about these things,
Right. And this
potential. And
could also, yeah, open up doors to other people who maybe they don't have to, they get a little something, then they can go off and find something. Maybe they're going to get something that they're going to hear and they're going to take that idea, run with it a different way. And then you and I learn something from them
yeah,
and, get to have that, have that basis of whatever learning it is to add. Cause it's cool. Like when you get to go and work with other people and bounce ideas and then if people hear them and get to take those ideas and like just kind of watch where everything's going.
yeah. Just try to be a catalyst and try to have more people realize that they can do more things without
Yeah.
getting nervous about it. Yeah.
So are you doing the your art still, the installations you were doing?
No, I'm taking a little bit of a break from that. Like, I'll probably try to reincorporate some art stuff into what I'm doing, but I haven't been painting for the last. I've just been doing work for the car business and then a little bit with this whole brainwave thing. But yeah, just and then running the philosophy club and kind of doing life, like taking my kids to soccer practice and stuff. So it's all kind of, you know,
uh to go back, I tell people this story still. So one time when you and I we went to a soccer practice and we were, let's see, we were someone, I don't know if I can name names or not, but someone that had a little brother too. And we were all in the car together. And one of the little brother's friends asked the mom, or like called someone a douchebag. And so then the mom had told the kids what a douchebag was. And then I think that's when I got to learn what a douchebag was
that's
because
what I
like
learned.
don't call someone a douchebag because this is what a douchebag is. And I remember
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
think
think
that
I
was
stopped calling people douchebags too on that after that same explanation for a little while, and then I was like, yeah,
well,
that's
a little
exactly what you are, you motherfucker.
yeah, right. And I was just like, yeah. So I mean, so maybe you can teach some kid that at some point, like you want to know what a douchebag is.
I'm kind of
So,
surprised that my neighbors still let me drive the kids to and from practice because I'm always afraid that I'm going to say something in the car that's going to be like kind of one of those moments where like they go home and they're like, "Hey, guess what Ian said in the car?" And then suddenly nobody wants to talk to me anymore when I'm outside, and they drive their kids separately. Like it hasn't happened yet, but
so well, and what's it like at the soccer games and stuff? Like when you're there, like is that I don't know because I don't have any kids. Like is it
yeah.
pretty wild? Like being on like wow watching now and
I mean, I wasn't big into it as a competitive player back when I was a kid, and definitely not now. So it's like, I feel like kind of an imposter. Like I look around, I'm like, oh, the other dads yell when this happens, so that's when I should, make some sounds or like, my kids do flag football too, and they like I don't know why the coach asked if I would be willing to be an assistant coach and just help with like subbing kids in and out, making sure they know their positions. I was like, I don't know. I'm not too, I'm not sure. And they're like, oh, come on. So they got me a shirt and, I got
oh
my clipboard and like I stand there and I do that. But at the same time, like, I don't want anybody to ask me any like actual questions about like strategy or position or anything like that. I'm just like,
just here to look pretty
yeah,
and
exactly.
yeah.
So it's,
So
yeah,
assistant coaching, uh,
I wear the
out there,
shirt.
you
Yeah,
wear the shirt
I wear the shirt.
and
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just happy that they're doing something with other kids. Like we didn't think either one would play any team sports, so it's good that they're having
yeah,
the experience. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean they're moving.
yeah, getting out there and yeah, doing everything and um. So then, when you're going down, did you find a new place for your philosophy club? Did that get? Weren't you looking for a new place? I think
We were
last time we
thinking
were
about it.
talking.
Like we could do it at my work. We got enough space in the garage to be able to do it, but we're just
Oh,
on Discord still because we have too many people from other parts of the country that probably all want to be there. And we switched over from reading that French philosopher Henry Versalm over to reading the works of Friedrich Nietzsche.
oh,
And
okay. You,
that always gets a bigger crowd. Like I think we had like 20 people show up the first time, and it's been pretty good since then. Like eventually we'll read his work, and then we're going to go back and read this book, which is Gilles Deleuze's Nietzschean philosophy. The club I made was called the Portland Association of Deleuze Studies, and so this is the first book we read. And I think I said even then too in our last conversation that we were going to read through these books and then come back and read this again. And I don't know. I still feel like this is the one that like if if there's anything that's forbidden knowledge, like thing that humanity really shouldn't be exposed to in terms of information, like I
yeah.
felt like this book basically contains it. And I felt like it kind of made me go insane when I read it. And then I felt like it has the potential. Like I was like, this really, these are ideas that shouldn't be shared with the average person, or maybe with people like me, but whatever. Um, but again, like because I don't know, it's just really out there. I'll if I was to do any future projects, it would basically be like trying to work some of these concepts into different activities and different things that people get exposed to. But I'll work on I wouldn't say a summary, but something that like takes kind of the impact of it and shares it quickly.
I mean, because yeah, now I'm thinking about your machine again, and okay, all right. So I mean, then with the machine, then like, I mean, how because those little subliminal things, but I mean, then you wouldn't be thinking that in your head, but I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe someone thinks in books, uh,
I'll
and book pages.
I'll come up with a way to take some of those ideas and figure out some of application for them. But like I said, like it's pretty out there stuff. Like I got to figure out the right format for it. But I'd say that that's probably the most interesting thing I found in all the books I've read was the content of that particular book.
And so, I mean, with the books, if they're stuff like that, that's the stuff that people need to, if they're at that spot, need to see. Like if they're in the spot where they can go there, they should go there. If they're saying, "Hey, don't," here you go look at it, man. And um, I don't know. I gotta fucking pull my library card out, I think, and go. Maybe I'm gonna do that today. I got go out to the library. It's still at the it's at the mall right now, which is really weird. The library's
Library in some
under
weird spots. Yeah.
yeah. The library is under construction, so it's been at the mall with it's just like a shop at the mall of the library.
Yeah, it's like you get to go over to, I think I was at a Mall 205.
Yep,
They moved the DMV into the mall, right?
that's the best DMV to go to.
It is. Yeah. So I was sitting there and I noticed this like sketchy poster up on the wall outside the DMV, and it was like a big iPad with a big X through it, and then next to it had another like a iPhone with a giant X through it, and it had an American flag in the background, and it had this
Oh,
like kind of sketchy anti-technology, save the youth message. It's like a
yeah.
big printed like banner that they had strung up on the wall there in Mall 205. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, what's going on with this sign? Like, who made this? Like, what company paid for this thing? So I go out there and there's this guy, and he's got a magic kiosk, like of magic tricks.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah,
Yep.
I started looking around and he's like, man, I've had this magic kiosk here for 30 years. Like his kid's there. It's like a Tuesday. And like, I'm pretty sure the kid should have been in school or whatever, but he wasn't. And they were
Yeah.
getting ready to open. It was like 9:30 and he was getting set and setting the books out. And I found, let me see if I got it right here. Uh, I don't know where it went. I'll find it later.
Magic
Yeah, it was a book on miming.
on mining?
Miming.
Miming.
Yeah, pantomime. And so
Whoa.
I was looking around and in the back of some of the philosophy books I'd read, there were these weird kind of cryptic statements about how miming was one of the key things to breaking through reality. And so I was like, huh, miming. So I picked up the book and I took it up to the counter, and he's like, hey man, this is a really good book. This is a really, really good book. And I was like, yeah, that's why I'm buying it. And so I bought it. And I showed it to some people and they were like, I had no idea that this is where miming leads to. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I fully grasp it yet either. But so anyways, I'm working on the that's on the back burner too.
Where
The
does miming
miming.
lead to? Or
Uh
is that something I cannot know
I think it
until
has
I
something to do with like the Truman Show thing and all that of like,
oh.
I don't know.
But,
We'll see. But
yeah, miming's an interesting one. I mean, that's it's a certain type of person, and but then it's overlooked a lot,
yeah,
which
no,
is
it's
the fucking perfect person.
well, maybe if you're the master of miming, it's always overlooked because you're miming all the time and people are just like they can't even detect.
I like it. I think
Yeah,
that's where we gotta
you
fucking
can end it right there. Yeah.
we gotta end it there. That's I think where we're going. So yeah, well I'll have you back on it at some
Yeah.
point again, man.
Always
Yeah,
great to
dude.
talk to you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I could talk fucking forever with you, man. And
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I appreciate that. And so um I don't know, man. I
Come
can
to
I guess
Portland.
I can
We'll strap you in the machine and
dude, yeah,
give you give you the breakthrough.
yeah. I think that might be something that needs to happen because I was very much into that idea. And like, yeah, I want to fucking try this out. And I think I have a ticket of sorts to get out that way at some point. So
Cool. Yeah,
um
we'll be here.
okay, cool. So Dr. Ian, when Dr. Ian goes live, the website until then, find you wherever, yeah, on this podcast or whatever, I don't know, anywhere. Dr. Ian. You'll I don't know.
Yeah, when we're in that stage, we'll do another episode and
Yeah,
see where it's at that point.
cool. All right, man. Well, you take her easy, man. Good talking with you, buddy.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for everything.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. All right. See ya. All right. That's fucking Ian. Dr. Ian. Dr. Ian. He didn't spend 6 years in Ian Medical School to be called Mr. Thank you very much. Man. Yep. I've known that guy since 1989. when I was negative 12. Anyway, thank you everyone so much for being here and listening. If you got here, dude, you're tripped out. Like that's a lot to take in. Fucking decompress. This was fun. This is cool. There's gonna be more shit coming with this. So just be ready. And I guess I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna strap in. I'm gonna try that out. So that is the show. Man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest! Ernest! Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?